and John McClain on Tuesdays, most every Tuesday at 5:30. What has been the shrapnel reaction in Houston over the Astros with their great run they've had, but not this year in the World Series?
It's very interesting, David. First of all, the Rangers, what they have achieved since blowing the division at Seattle has been, to me, one of the most impressive things I've seen in baseball history. To do what they did in Tampa, Baltimore, now Houston, it's amazing. They're built to last. People down here on my shows are mad because I want the Rangers to win the World Series. And I said for two reasons, and the Astros can say that they lost to the World Series champion, but we can also say a Texas team won the World Series. And I think that would be great. And I think there's a good chance they will. The TV people want it to be the Phillies, not Arizona. And but the Astros, if you think about it, they lost Altuve 70 games. They lost Alvarez 49. Did not have Lance McCullers at all. Their 15-game winner, Luis Garcia, missed almost all the season with Tommy John surgery. And to get in the seventh consecutive ALCS was pretty impressive, even though they blew the last two games to the Rangers. But, man, those Rangers hitters, the Rangers will still have to work on their pitching staff next year, but being able to watch those hitters is going to be so much fun. And I sent out a tweet last night congratulating them and saying for all my family members and friends in Waco and the Metroplex who are Rangers fans, congratulations.
Very classy by you, John. I know a lot of other Astros fans were not that way, but I understand it.
No, they weren't that way. No, not at all.
Yeah. Where does Adolis Garcia now rank amongst Houston sports villains?
It's very interesting because the Rangers said they had not heard anybody get booed like he did here, which you knew was going to happen. Altuve gets booed like that every time he comes up on the road, and he thrives on it the way Garcia thrives on it. And I thought they added spice to it. We've had some villains through the years. Karl Malone from the Utah Jazz would probably be considered number one. Larry Bird right up there because they kept the Rockets from doing what everybody wanted the Rockets to do, of course, which was to advance. And I think Garcia's clutch performance after he struck out 4 times and then hits a grand slam, my goodness, what a performance, what a clutch performance. And I hope he does like Jeremy Pena did last year, MVP of the ALCS, and then go on to be MVP of the World Series. But, boy, I'll get run out of Houston when they hear me say that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because they used to be in different leagues, and when that happened in the West, I was like, is that going to work out? Well, it's turned into the Rangers dominated for many years, and then the Astros flipped the switch the last 5 to 6, 7 years because of their dominance. And, they have had drama. Absolute drama. Your thoughts about Dusty Baker after a really nice way to wrap up his career with Houston despite the loss? That's not the nice way, but class guy and the fact he might not be there anymore.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
The Athletic had a story that said he's been telling people that he might be done, and then they said, but he might change his mind. So in other words, he could be back or he could not be back. I personally believe I think he'll be gone. The new GM, Dana Brown, hadn't been on the job for a year. He came from Atlanta. New GMs always have somebody they want to hire. Jim Crane, of course, will sign off, and he may make the decision. Their bench coach, Joe Espada, is very popular with the players and the media, and he had taken Alex Cora's place. But he's interviewed for a bunch of jobs and hadn't gotten one, and we can't figure out why, because he's such a good guy, knowledgeable guy. And but I think Dusty will be gone. When they brought him in here to replace A.J. Hinch, there's no way they could have envisioned what this team would do with him coming off the World Series in which they shockingly lost every game at home in the 7-game series. And he takes over and it's been a spectacular run. And they got a lot of talent. There's no reason they won't be right up there with the Rangers next year and maybe the Mariners. And so it's going to be fun. Bruce Bochy does, man, I wonder, in his 3 years of retirement, did everybody just assume he was done?
Mm-hmm.
Did teams call him and say, hey, Bruce, are you interested in coming out of retirement? And he said no. But then Young calls him. He says yes. What a great move by the Rangers. And you hope Bruce takes good care of himself and he doesn't retire anytime soon, because they'll be a World Series contender every year under him. And what he did for them after they got crushed at home, kept them from going down the tubes, is one of the most impressive things I've ever seen done by a manager.
Yeah, it's just the perfect storm, I think, of the players and coach and all that at the right time for sure, John. Meanwhile, the Texans coming off of the open week at 3-3, and now a battle of, well, the top quarterbacks in last year's draft as C.J. Stroud will take on Bryce Young and the Panthers. But, John, just what was the kind of the focus of the bye week and your thoughts on what's upcoming?
Craig, I tweeted last night. I said I haven't been able to tweet something like this after an Astros season ended. Well, there's always the Texans, because usually they've been so bad. People are really excited about what DeMeco Ryans has done, and C.J. Stroud and some other players. They've lost. They're 3-1 in their last 4 games, and in those games, the loss came on a field goal at Atlanta with no time left on the clock. Now they go to Carolina. I'm writing a column on sportsradio610.com tomorrow about Stroud versus Young, first 2 picks in the draft, about how Lovie Smith won the last game at Indy, went for 2, won. Everybody booed him like crazy because he cost Houston a chance to get Bryce Young, and they got stuck with C.J. Stroud. So far, that's working out quite well. But people love DeMeco. They love Stroud. They got a good thing going on right now.
So what do you make of the 49ers? They got beat again last night. It appears as if the offense has become a little stagnant. Purdy now looks like just another guy. Not that he was just amazing against the Cowboys in that rout of Dallas, but are people catching up with them, or is there something else going on?
Well, they missed Trent Williams, their great tackle, and their running game only got 65 yards, and they're all about the run. And they were missing a couple players. But you know what? Every team is missing a couple of more players. And Purdy hasn't been in a situation where he's had to bring them from behind with a double-digit deficit too much in his brief career. And he looked awful in the fourth quarter. Last interception, he should have run the ball. It was just a terrible decision, a terrible pass. But he's well coached. I'm sure he'll bounce back. After that Cowboy game, I thought they were going to the Super Bowl. And right now, they look very ordinary. You know, it's interesting that Kansas City's won 5 in a row. Buffalo's got problems. Philadelphia looks good again. I think the 2 best teams right now, you'd have to say, are Philadelphia and Kansas City. Last week, I thought Detroit was the best team in the NFC, and I look like an idiot.
John, what did you think of Dolphins and Eagles? A much anticipated matchup, but Philly getting a couple touchdown win.
If you look at Miami's teams they've beaten, I think they've combined for 8 victories. They played a very easy schedule. They've been hammered by Buffalo and Philadelphia, and that's, you know, when you have a team down in South Florida that relies so much on the deep passing game, and it hadn't even gotten cold and windy and snowy and icy yet, and they're going to experience that, you gotta be worried about it if you're a Dolphins fan. But you know, they can run the ball, but when it gets into November, December, that's where we're going to start to see teams separate. But right now, it's hard. Unlike 2 weeks ago, when you knew the 49ers were the best team in the league until they spit the bit these last 2, I think it's wide open, and that makes it more interesting. When we were, I spent the last 5 days at our home house in Maryland, and I watched 2 games. The Ravens, they were incredible, and the Commanders, They look like they're trying to get Ron Rivera fired.
Yeah.
And I think of all the hot seats in the NFL, well, it's Rivera's because they were terrible, lose to the Giants, and they've got a new owner. Those new owners want to hire their own guys. So I don't think Ron Rivera is long for this coaching world.
Did you see the quotes? And I actually saw what Jonathan Allen said. Here's a guy that played at Alabama, obviously came up to a standard. He is furious. He's sick. Like he said, I'm sick of this. And he said more than that. And I love, as a lifelong Washington fan, I love what he said because I am too.
And he had to be bleeped 5 times. And all F-bombs. And I think their defensive line, which was dominant last year, and they had a good running game, and now their offensive line is just horrible. Poor old Sam Howell's going to shatter David Carr's record of 76 sacks, and they just have taken a major step backward. And they may be in the running for, you never know, at least in position to trade up to get Caleb Williams or Drake May.
Speaking of that, John, you know what certain teams, franchises put red flags or whatever. They won't touch a certain player. That might be because of off-the-field activity, might be because of drugs, it might be because of attitude, whatever, character. What are your thoughts about Caleb Williams if, in fact, the rest of their season continues to go south and he was to and I don't think he's going to quit. I just think he's got too much there, but some of the rumors about shutting it down.
I think that I saw somebody I respect that lost his locker saying he was better prospect than Elway and Manning, and I'm thinking, and Andrew Luck and all those guys, and I'm thinking, what in the world? Now I tell you what, Lincoln Riley's not doing him any favors. Right after it was hilarious. He wouldn't make anybody available to the media. And they had put out a thing earlier about how important it was for their student athletes to talk to the media. And it's just a disaster at USC. And, when you turn all the media against you, that trickles down to the players. And Caleb Williams is going to be the first overall pick because they don't care what you do in college. They care what you do in shorts and a T-shirt.
Thank you, John. We appreciate it. How was Washington, D.C. or Maryland or wherever you were?
We were outside Annapolis. It was beautiful, on the water, had a blast. Second Bears, congratulations on that victory at Cincinnati.
Thank you very much, John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist with us, and the insight on the NFL. Obviously, the insight he has on many things NFL, Astros, Rangers, and then even his thoughts about Baylor, his beloved Baylor Bears, too. We appreciate his time.